What's going on, guys? CEO here, back again with week 5 of the NES. This week we are going up against Tone 114 and the Maine red Clawitzers. They were formerly undefeated before getting swept last week by Superior, so I figure they're probably going to be out for blood this week, and as if they weren't out for blood already, their team is absolutely terrifying. Quick note before I get into this, shoutouts again to Super Nerd for helping the team build. And I'm going to have to go ridiculously fast today because I only have an hour to record this and the battle, and I have a lot to say about the battle. So I don't even know if I'm going to be able to have music in the background of this video, but I should be able to talk a little bit louder, at least this week. So quick run through this team. Mega Gardevoir is terrifying. I actually have a couple of answers for it on my team, but it's still fucking terrifying. Manaphy is the scariest Mon in League format, in my opinion. You give it one free turn of setup and it will just tear through your team. So I have multiple answers for that. Scolipede is also terrifying, and I planned heavily for Scolipede. My assistant coach and I probably had, I want to say probably like 15 practice matches or so, plus some theory building in between. And every single game brought Scolipede, because if it was just the setup, like Baton Pass one, if it was a setup Swords Dance one where it just did its own thing, it seemed like it pretty much had answers to punch holes through my team, so I had to be very, very careful about Scolipede when I was team building this week. Nidoqueen, I have Nidoking, so I know how awesome the Nidos are. Nidoqueen's the bulkier one, but it's also the slower one, which is good for me, because in a matchup of Nidoqueen versus Nidoking, it's kind of a trade-off, but because I'm faster, I'll actually be able to 1v1 it, which is nice. Yuxi, I think it's Uxie, I'm not really sure. Super fat, but not really very offensive. And with the fact that I have Mega-Absol and Thundurus-T, which can get Dark Pulse very easily, and some other stuff, even Sucker Punch on Nidoking, I wasn't really expecting Yuxi this week. I know it's pretty fat, and a Calm Mindset's pretty terrifying, but I didn't really expect to see it this week. Him on top is pretty terrifying. I've used it in lower tiers, and I was actually looking at it as a tier 4 pick for myself, actually. Sorry. I was looking at it for myself. Good fake out, priority, rapid spin. I was kind of just expecting an Assault Vest set to kind of try to deal with Thundurus a little bit better. Maybe a rock move to hit it back if it was like an Assault Vest with like Rock Slide or something like that. Gourgeist is actually really hard to prepare for in League format because you have to prepare for every form of it. So rather than just having to prepare for like a Mon that has a base speed of 90, you have to prepare for the speedier one, which has a base speed of 100, and then the bulkier one, which has a base speed of 80. And they both kind of do different things, so you kind of have to be on the lookout for both of that. Or all of that, I guess. Cobalion is pretty intimidating for my team, just because it outspeeds everything. So if he slaps a Choice Scarf on it, the only thing I can do to outspeed is get an agility up, which I'll get to in a second. Druddigon is a very good answer to Victini, actually. The Rough Skin Rocky Helmet set, I've seen it used in the GBA a couple of times, and it just completely walls Victini. Even a Dazzling Gleam, surprisingly, only does like 40% or something to a really fat Druddigon. It's super slow, and it doesn't have recovery, really, which are like its big drawbacks, but I think it's pretty underrated in League format. I think it's like a tier 4 or something, which is pretty ridiculous. And finally we have Lanturn, which for like the first couple days of practice I wasn't terrified of, and then I remembered he had it on his team, and I realized that Thundurus-T like pretty much got hardwalled by it. And during team practice, we actually realized that Blissey, Druddigon, Lanturn would be a fat as fuck team to try to get through with the matchup that I have. So we ended up kind of focusing most of our efforts in the second half of our practice and stuff to that. So 5 minutes in, and I guess I'll start talking about my team. Sorry, I'm trying to go fast, and there's still so much to talk about that it's taking forever anyway. So, like I said, I needed something that could be fast, and I needed something that could hit hard. So I figured, why not Thundurus-Therian, because it's really good at that. I went with the Focus Sash Dual Dance set this week with Thunderbolt and Psychic, because that pretty much hits everything on his team. I would have to get rid of the Lanturn first to be able to really, or at least weaken it to about 50%, which is what a +2 Psychic will do. But if I can get Lanturn to about 50%, I already assumed he wasn't bringing Uxie, but Uxie would pretty much hardwall the set too, I guess, because Uxie's just super fat and able to eat up Thunderbolts and Psychics, I think. But once I get rid of the couple of checks to it he has on his team, Dual Dance Thundurus could pretty much just win, more or less. If not win, punch significant holes, and that's what I was going for. Max speed outspeeds any variant of Manaphy, unless he runs a weird Choice Scarf set. But if he runs Choice Scarf, he's not running Tail Claw, which is alright with me. Whoops. Moving on, we have Victini. Oh my god, please still recording dimensions. Sorry. Okay. So moving on, we have Victini. Kind of another standard Victini, I guess, with Choice Scarf, V-Create, Bolt Strike, U-Turn, and Trick. I've noticed that he was pretty weak. Oh my god, did these EVs not save? Oh. So, I don't know when this happened, but I actually literally just noticed this now. This was supposed to be max attack adamant with HP. I am gonna have to run some calcs here actually in between recording sessions and see if that made a difference in this battle, because that was supposed to be max attack with a little bit of HP investment, which may have actually significantly changed things if I went into the battle with a Victini that was only 164 speed and no attack investment. Sorry, that really threw me off. I'll have to check and see if that was just like something that just changed now. But anyway, V-Create, Bolt Strike, U-Turn, and Trick. V-Create isn't actually like super great against his team, but I have to bring it for Scolipede and Gourgeist. And I guess Cobalion, if I'm at high enough health, I'll be able to take pretty much whatever he wants to do and go for V-Create and kill it. Bolt Strike, I figured... sorry. Bolt Strike, I figured he was bringing Conberry, Manaphy, just because I had a Thundurus T. I haven't really been bringing Breloom as much, so I figured he wasn't really going to be preparing for the grass threats on my team, so I figured he was going to prepare for more for Bolt Strike, Victini, and Thunderbolt, or Thundurus-Therian. So, even though Bolt Strike, with prior damage, Bolt Strike's still a 2-hit KO, even with a Waconberry, so I wasn't really super worried about it. U-Turn for momentum, and Trick just to kind of hardwall the Blissey and stuff. Sorry, I'm still really thrown off by those EVs. I'm going to be really pissed if that actually went into the battle like that, I guess. But moving on, we have Breloom. Silasab in the Breloom. Toxic Orb Poison Heal actually does pretty good work this week, just because I need good residual recovery, and I needed a grass type attacker, just because the Lanturn Manaphy combo on his team was very terrifying to me, actually. There wasn't really a whole lot I could do with this in my initial set, because I had Mega-Absol here instead of Breloom at first, but it just got hard-walled pretty much, unless I ran like a really special attack invested one, but even then it wasn't really that good against the rest of his team, so I don't know. But Breloom here, Seed Bomb 2-hit KOs Manaphy and Lanturn, Drain Punch 2-hit KOs Blissey and Cobalion, if I can get it in on a switch, I guess. Facade, actually that's 40% to Scolipede, so if I get rocks up, which spoilers I'll have on Fluorite, I can actually 2-hit KOs Facade, and Spore is just there because the only Spore absorber he has on his team is Gourgeist, and while he could bring Gourgeist, I didn't really think he was going to bring it, just because he had other threats on his team that I thought he would prioritize a bit more. And the speed investment allows me to outspeed anything within reason, basically. 116 allows me to outspeed Uxie, Nidoking, Lanturn, unless he's like an actual like fully max speed or like Jolly Lanturn, which would be really weird. But yeah. So, moving on, we have Karen the Vaporeon, who's also rocking a bit of a weird set this week with no offensive moves. But like I said, I was terrified of Scolipede, so I needed a hard wall to it, and Vaporeon was the closest thing I had to a hard wall to it, just because of the coverage that Scolipede gets, and the fact that it's also pretty offensive. Unfortunately, because I also needed a Manaphy wall, I couldn't afford to run defense investment, so it's not even really that good of a Scolipede check, to be honest, but I needed something with Roar, and Vaporeon was the best thing for that this week, just to phase stuff out. Once I get Vaporeon in, after rocks are up, I can pretty much just start roaring and wish stalling stuff down, toxicing when necessary, I guess. Basically once Scolipede's out of the way. This Vaporeon set seemed to do pretty well in practice. I kind of wish I had room for an offensive move on here, but Vaporeon unfortunately has like pretty bad 4-slot syndrome, where you always kind of want recovery on it. I probably shouldn't be talking about that in the team builder, but just my opinions on it from what I've noticed so far. So you may notice that I'm actually rocking dual choice scarfs this week. They're kind of slow choice scarfers, to be honest, but the way I built the team was to outspeed anything I could reasonably outspeed. I actually think that a fully speed invested Victini could outspeed some variants of a Scolipede even at +1. But I kind of figured he was going to be running a speedy Scolipede just to make sure that he outsped everything he needed to, like Victini and Mega-Absol. So I didn't really bother investing speed at Victini, and I kind of had a similar process with Nidoking, where I outsped the things I needed to outspeed, which I'm pretty sure is a Nidoqueen with a choice scarf, and anything slower than that, pretty much. But I outspeed a Nidoqueen with a choice scarf, and I'm able to 2-hit KO with Earthquake, Poison Jab, Okos, Mega Gardevoir 100% of the time, I think. Thunder Punch actually does like 60% or something to Manaphy. Obviously it doesn't do anything to Lanturn, assuming that it's Volt Absorb, which I've been assuming the entire time, by the way. And Stealth Rocks are there if he leads Scolipede and just goes for Protect, because I get free rocks. There's not really a whole lot of other opportunities for me to go to Stealth Rocks during the game, just because he's so offensive and I need to keep putting pressure on that I can't really afford to go for rocks and then switch out. But I needed the scarf to outspeed stuff this week. And finally, we have a specially defensive Scizor. I changed my nickname this week because Super Nerd started going with a similar nickname, and I didn't want to have him change his. So Roost, Defog, U-turn, Bullet Punch, pretty standard, but I didn't really want to mess with what works, and Mega Gardevoir was very scary for the rest of my team. At least having a switch into Mega Gardevoir specifically was very scary for the rest of my team. I kind of figured he would game plan heavily against Scizor, so I could have mixed it up a little bit more, I guess, but Roost, Defog, U-turn, and Bullet Punch kind of did everything that I needed it to do. As long as I was committed to keeping it healthy and keeping rocks up, Thundurus-T would be able to punch holes and stuff. And U-turn, Bullet Punch is just decent damage for the rest of stuff and allowing me to get very slow actually, U-turns and other stuff. Because I have a very offensive team, and basically Karen and Clamps are my walls here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the battle really quick, and we will get started on that. Alright, and again, just a quick heads up that this is probably going to be a little bit more rushed than normal. I'm probably going to miss fading the Mons, because I have to do that live, as well as commentate on stuff. But if you watch my team builder part, you'd realize that this is a very different team than the one I predicted. He brought the Lanturn, Druddigon, Blissey core that I was really scared of, and he brought the Manaphy, which I was very afraid of. But seeing Hitmontop and Cobalion here really threw me for a loop. I just wasn't expecting both of them to come. I figured a Choice Scarf Cobalion was pretty much guaranteed to come, especially if Scolipede didn't. Again, I wasn't expecting Scolipede not to come, like, at all, pretty much. Like 100% of my practice games had Scolipede, so when I didn't see Scolipede, my jaw just like hit the floor pretty much. But I figured an AV Hitmontop with 4 moves just to kind of do chip damage to my team. Rapid Spin to keep rocks off his side of the field, Fake Out to just do chip damage to the stuff that it doesn't outspeed, and then maybe a rock move to hit Thundurus if it's prepared to live that, I guess. Going over stuff. So the lead that I ultimately ended up settling on, I looked through his team. I was going to lead Nidoking and just get rocks up, especially if he had Scolipede. But since he didn't and he had hazard removal, I thought in Hitmontop, I decided to not lead Nidoking and instead just went ahead and led with Victini. Also, sorry that he's ending up going, or it's his side of the battle closer. It's just the way that the showdown thing saved, I guess. Sorry, I'm trying to organize myself a little bit here. So here, I didn't know what he was going to do. I didn't know if he had rock coverage, which would have made sense, I guess, given my team. I unfortunately don't have psychic coverage on Victini, so I'm just going to U-turn and see what he wants to do. I figure Scizor is a pretty safe switch. He does have rock coverage, unfortunately, and gets a crit, which kind of sucks. So I figure here he's going to switch. I, again, am just kind of trying to get momentum here. He instead just goes for close combat and does significant damage to me. I actually thought this might have been an offensive Hitmontop, but that's kind of just the damage the Hitmontop does neutrally, surprisingly. I should have roosted here. If I would have read the calc here and seen how much a close combat did, I should have roosted and just roost-stalled him a little bit more until he actually did switch, because a critical hit, Stone Edge didn't do very much, and close combats weren't doing 50%, so he would have been dropped eventually, to the point where a Bullet Punch would have killed him, pretty much. But instead I just decided to go for the U-turn. I figure now he's pretty much guaranteed to switch, so I might as well get my Thundurus in since rocks aren't up, and get a Psychic off on something. I figure the Lanturn's coming in, and it is, and it's the bulky Lanturn, which I was afraid of. And here, every time Lanturn comes in, it's kind of a weird situation, because I figure it's either going to be going for Scald, it's either going to be going for Toxic, or it's going to be Volt switching. I'm not really sure what the last move is. It could be Heal Bell. If it was offensive, it could maybe have some type of coverage for my team. I figured he wasn't going to Scald right away. Actually, I wasn't really sure what he was going to do. I figured he wasn't going to Volt Switch right away because I had Thundurus in, and him giving me a free turn of just sitting in with Thundurus probably wasn't the best thing. So I actually did predict the Scald here and go into Vaporeon. Unfortunately, he gets the Toxic off. Could have switched into Nidoking and gotten in for free, but that's okay. I just go for a Toxic. He brings in Blissey, which doesn't really matter because Blissey has Natural Cure, so it's just going to get rid of the Toxic the second it switches out. I go for a Wish, just figure I can Wish Pass into something. It sets rocks up. At this point, I figure that I can probably just switch into Scizor for pretty much free, because there's not really a whole lot that Blissey can do to me. But I haven't scouted it enough yet, and I know that Blissey's special attack is just high enough to be really threatening, actually. And I know that Ice Beam does significant damage to Thundurus, so I figure if Ice Beam did significant damage to Thundurus, some kind of like fire coverage or something would do a lot to Scizor, so I wanted to play it safe and scout first. So I make a middle ground play going to Nidoking, because I figure there's really nothing the Blissey can do to Nidoking except Sizing Toss. And now that I'm in at full health, there's really nothing that it can do except take damage. And I figure he's going to be pretty scared of the superpower, which would very easily 2-hit KO. It might even OHKO, actually, I don't really remember. But I figure he's going to be scared and switch out. So here we're kind of back to the 50-50 Lanturn game, only now I have Nidoking in, so he can't Toxic. He can Scald or Volt Switch if he wants to. he actually can't Volt Switch, I just realized because I'm ground type too. So he can Scald if he wants to, but I get a free double into Vaporeon and get a Wish off for pretty much free, and then just get to Wish Pass into something. So we're back at the 50-50 game, and this time I realized that I obviously outspeed, and this Lanturn's a big enough issue that I just need to get damage off. So I decided to stay in an Earthquake because it hits everything pretty hard. It even does surprising damage to Manaphy. The only thing that can really switch in here is the Hitmontop, but I also wall the Hitmontop, so he switches into the Blissey. It does 39%, which isn't enough for me to want to stay in and do it again, because I figure he's just going to soft boiled. So I just switch out into Breloom and decide to get my Toxic Heal off. It's actually kind of a risky play now that I think about it, because if Blissey had Thunder Wave and it blocked my Toxic Orb, that would have like completely walled this set, but I figured Blissey probably wasn't going to go for a Thunder Wave on a Nidoking, especially when I had a Thundurus-T on my team. Like, I just figured he wasn't going to be bringing Thunder Wave. So I brought it in because I figured worst case scenario I could Drain Punch. He makes a nice double back into Hitmontop to get the offensive pressure. I calced here, and I think Close Combat actually did a little bit more than I wanted it to do. So I just go ahead and double back out into Nidoking because he resists it, and I am Scarfed. It doesn't really matter at this point, but I know I'm Scarfed and outspeed everything and can get a free hit off. At this point, I'm very much contemplating Rocks, but looking at his team, he has 3 resists to it and 3 things that go neutrally, or get hit neutrally by it. I see that he's switching out a lot, but I just unfortunately don't really think it's worth my momentum to go for Rocks and then be forced to switch out. I could stay in an Earthquake here, especially now that Eddie Gordo's down defense, but I'm pretty sure I calced it and I wasn't going to kill anyway, and I didn't want to take any more damage on Nidoking than I had to, so I just take the safe switch into Scizor, and he goes for the counter, and I was like, cool. Glad I didn't just waste my Nidoking for no reason, especially with how important it is this week. But I see here that even after leftovers, I'm still in range of the Close Combat, which really sucks. And because I'm minus speed nature, there's literally no way for me to live here. So I just have to let Scizor drop, unfortunately. I found out after the game that Blissey did have Flamethrower. It doesn't end up going for it for the rest of the game, so I don't really feel bad spoiling that. But Blissey was the only thing that I could have reliably switched into and potentially gotten a Roost or Defog off on, but because I was minus speed nature, I kind of wasn't really going to outspeed anything anyway. Like I said back on like turn 2 or something, like really early in the game, I should have roosted and kept Scizor at higher health, so it could have just lived these hits. I'm very mad at myself for throwing away a pretty important wall very early. I was a little flustered going into the game that he didn't have Mega Gardevoir on his team, and in my mind, since he didn't have Mega Gardevoir and I was special defensive, Scizor didn't really have as much value this game, but it's at this point that I remember that I have a Focus Sash on Thundurus-Therian that I'm now not going to be able to really use at all, and that sucks. Since he's -2, I just decided to switch into Thundurus-Therian and break the Sash for now. The Sash is broken, like, for good, even if I switch, even if I do Wish shenanigans with Vaporeon, like, I'm always going to take 25% on switch in, or 24 for the first one. So I'm pretty much, the dream's dead for the Dual Dance sweep, so at this point I'm kind of just trying to do the damage I can and playing damage control, I guess. So I go for the Psychic again, knowing Lanturn's coming in. I could have doubled, but I just needed the damage, and I knew that Lanturn really couldn't do a whole lot to me, or I thought, until I saw Ice Beam and saw that it did 62%. Again, that 4th move on Lanturn, I was trying to scout it all game. I figured he had Scald, and I figured he had Volt Switch, because that's pretty standard on Lanturn, and I figured he had Toxic, because that's also pretty standard. but good on him for bringing Ice Beam for coverage. It was the right play to make anyway, just because Thundurus-T like would have dropped to an Ice Beam. I'm pretty sure if it wouldn't have dropped, it would have gotten very, very low. And he was still at a high enough health that I couldn't set up a nasty plot and just kill it with Psychic, because I think he needed to be about 20% lower. But it's at this point that I check my speed and remember that Lanturn is also very slow, and unless he has very, very, very significant investment, which it doesn't look like he does given how much Psychic is doing, that looks about right for a special defensive Lanturn like built to take on Thundurus. So I figure he's not physically defensive, which means that Seed Bomb will actually do enough damage to kill at this range, I believe. I could go for a Spore here, but it's at this point that I'm pretty much convinced that I'm going to stay in and just chance that he's not a max special defense, max speed Lanturn. If he is, kudos to him for being an amazing team builder and realizing that, but I don't really know if that would have taken hits as well from Thundurus anyway, so I don't know if that would have been worth it. So I just decided to stay in. I figure he's going to switch, and I need to start getting Breloom back up to full health, because I realize at this point that I'm not doing a good job of keeping my things healthy. So I just stay in, go for the Seed Bomb, and even at -1, that's still doing like decent damage to Hitmontop. I don't want to stay in because I'm pretty sure close combat's going to kill from this range. So I figure I can get heal or poison heal off later and get back up to full or close to it. So I take my switch into Nidoking that I've been taking, finally kill this goddamn Hitmontop, and he switches into Manaphy. I'm gonna pause this while I try to get rid of this. So I at this point haven't actually shown off that I'm scarfed yet. I'm playing like I'm choiced, and he doesn't see an item. But that doesn't actually mean anything, because I'm pretty sure Sheer Force Life Orb doesn't take damage from Life Orb, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But anyway, I haven't shown that I'm actually Choice Scarfed yet, at least in terms of coming in against something that I shouldn't outspeed and clicking a move and doing damage on it. I could, at this point, save Nidoking, who is a very reliable switch-in against Cobalion and against Lanturn, and actually against Blissey too. But I cannot just switch out and let this thing get a Tail Glow on me, because if it does, I lose. Like, it's as simple as that. It clicks Tail Glow, I get a little bit of damage off with Thundurus-Therian maybe, and then I'm playing damage control and probably not doing a very good job at it. So I have to stay in an Earthquake, even though Nidoking is vital for me to win this game, and just get damage off to the point where I can revenge kill with Thundurus-Therian or Breloom. I instead just go ahead and switch into Victini, because I also realized that even at 76%, I would be, or with the investment that I had, I would be able to just barely live a Scald. I figured he's going for Scald. If he had Surf, I guess that kind of messed up my plans, but I figured Scald was more important for how physical my team was, and how important a burn would be, I guess. So I switch into Victini because I know even with the Wakan Berry, Volt Strike still a 2-hit KO from this range. And Victini's honestly looking a little bit less useful, because the fact that he hasn't brought out Cobalion means that it's either a setup sweeper or a choice scarfer that he's just trying to keep healthy in the back. And at this point, Victini, like, I don't know, Victini's just not quite as useful to me at this point. So I just decided to go for the damage I can and go for the Bolt Strike. And I'm expecting fully to take a bunch of recoil here and be like, well, looks like I'm switching out. But I don't. So that means that this is offensive Druddigon, which is terrifying, because I left Granbull at home. And honestly, as much as I love Granbull, I didn't even really get to consider it too much for this week, because Cobalion's there and can pretty much just wall me with Iron Head, and I figured if he was bringing Druddigon, it was going to be defensive, because that just walls Victini. Unfortunately, he also realized that offensive Druddigon does a lot to my team, and just starts doing the damage he needs to do and firing off Dragon Claws. I'm pretty certain at this point that I outspeed, unless he's a max speed Druddigon, which I'm actually not ruling out because he is offensive, clearly. I figured a bulky Druddigon would probably be more realistic just to take hits and switch in and stuff, but I realize at this point that Vaporeon's also kind of dropping. Like I said, my team builder really wished that I could have fit Heal Bell on this set, but I just couldn't with how scary Scolipede was. I had to put Roar. Like, I had to, well, with the fact that he had Scolipede and Manaphy, I had to put Roar because I needed to start phasing stuff out if it set up on me. Or at least if it's set up in my face, I guess. But yeah, so I have to let Karen drop here, so I just throw up a wish at the last second and Vaporeon drops, unfortunately. I go into Breloom here because I figure if I outspeed, or I looked at the speed and realized that if Breloom, or if Vaporeon outsped, Breloom outsped, and at this point I need to get a Spore off on something and get Breloom up to full health, and more importantly get something to sleep. I'm not sure if he's going to switch here. I think that a Dragon Claw will actually kill, so I'm kind of hoping that he stays in, just because I don't think that, or I've shown that I'm mostly offensive at this point, but I haven't shown the Spore yet, so he may think that I don't have it, so I'm really hoping that he stays in. He does, thank God. Gets to sleep, I get the wish from Vaporeon, and I'm back up to full. So, I'm feeling a lot better about this. Oh, Nidoking's been dead. I'm feeling a lot better about this game at this point, even though it's still 3-5, just because Breloom's super healthy. Thundurus isn't really doing a whole lot at this point because its sash is broken and it's not really hitting things right now. And Victini's also sort of, I don't want to say useless, but Victini's kind of just sitting in the back until Manaphy dies, pretty much. Because Manaphy just comes in and revenge kills it after rocks at this point. But Karen did not die in vain because now Breloom's up to full health, and Breloom is putting in work this week. I'm so glad that I actually brought Breloom, and while I wish that I could have also brought Mega-Absol given the team that he had, I am very glad that I decided to bring Breloom. Because Toxic Orb Facade is doing significant damage. I think he figured that I was probably Seed Bomb, Mach Punch, or something like that, but I hadn't shown Spore or Facade at this point, so I figured I could get significant damage off on something. And if he switches into Cobalion at this point, I ran the calc just to make sure, like, I had looked at his team builder and stuff. If he switches into Cobalion at this point, I have a 93% chance to OHKO, actually, because I don't actually think I've shown off very much of this Breloom's moveset yet, but I also have Drain Punch on here, and if he switches into Cobalion, takes a Facade, and then takes a Drain Punch, he's pretty much dead. I take a close combat fairly well from full. I think it does like 70 to 80% or something. So he has to switch into something or let Druddigon drop, and he switches into Blissey. I go for Drain Punch, predicting the Cobalion to come in, actually. Even with the Chople Berry, and still a 2-hit KO. I think it actually would have been a 2-hit KO even from full with the Chople Berry, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I just go for the Drain Punch again, get rid of this Blissey, make sure it doesn't try to do any dumb healing crap, because I did not want to deal with Blissey anymore. And Blissey drops. And right here is a play that I was terrified for. So, Manaphy comes in for free, and I figure it has Ice Beam. It's gonna go for Ice Beam, because why else would a Manaphy switch into a Breloom if it didn't have Ice Beam? I could come in with Victini, go for Bolt Strike, do a little bit of damage, activate the likely Wakan Berry, and revenge kill with Thundurus. But that seems like I'm taking a lot of damage. But with the with the investments that I made into Breloom's special defense, I ran the calc, and even a max special attack modest Ice Beam only has about a 33% chance to OHKO from full. So, first of all, it's a very good thing that I'm up to full health, because otherwise the situation would have been pretty terrible. But I have a 33% chance to be OHKO'd here. And basically my 2 plays are stay in, Seed Bomb, and kill. Well, stay in, eat the Ice Beam, and then Seed Bomb and kill. Or switch out to Victini on the predicted Ice Beam, go for a Bolt Strike and let that drop, and then go into Thundurus-Therian and get the revenge kill. Or, more likely, get the revenge 20% on Lanturn. So, that didn't really seem like the best play for me, so I decided to stay in and Seed Bomb here. I'm praying, I'm on my back foot here, but it's only a 33% chance to OHKO, so please just live. And I lived. I was so stoked, because Manaphy's gone, which means Tail Glow's gone, which means that I actually somewhat still stand a chance. It's not a very big chance, because now Psilocybin is very, very, very much dead. But I may be able to pull some Drain Punch shenanigans and get back up to enough health to be able to live a close combat. He realizes at this point that he needs close combat to come through. And actually, I didn't even notice this on my first recording, but I make a misplay here and decide to sack Thundurus-Therian because I think close combat's going to do less than it does, but even resisted it still does 36% and is a 2-hit KO. Looking back on it, if I did predict the close combat, which... Oh, no, you know what I did is I actually predicted the Volt Switch, because I thought I was at low enough health where he was just going to Volt Switch on me and kill me. And then be able to get some momentum into Lanturn and then basically just Ice Beam for the win, I guess. But he instead just went for the close combat, which did more than I expected to Thundurus. I guess in hindsight I really should have switched into Victini there and just taken whatever, because I think I could have actually taken 2 close combats and killed with a V-Create, or at least did significant damage onto Lanturn. So I make the play 1 turn too late, I guess, which seems to be a theme with some of my games, and just go for the V-Create, and it does 40%. And at this point, I'm debating, at this point I'm pretty sure I've lost, and I'm just kind of debating on what to do for a differential here. And my 2 plays are either V-Create again, sack Victini, and then go for the Seed Bomb on Lanturn, let it drop, and then just drop to a close combat, or try to predict a Toxic or something like that on Victini, and switch into Breloom, somehow live, and then get a Drain Punch off and recover just enough health to be able to live. So I figured that was a more realistic play of me being able to win this game somehow. He makes a nice prediction and just goes for the Ice Beam to kill me. I could have actually stayed in with Victini, V-created, and just killed this thing, and probably gotten the differential down a little bit more. But that's alright. Tone definitely deserved the win. He prepped very well. He caught me off guard in my prep, and just played very well during the game. Even though he got 6-0'd the week prior to me, I still treated him as if he was an undefeated opponent, because he had the roster of an undefeated opponent and played like an undefeated opponent. I don't know. I don't really think getting swept by Superior is that bad personally, just because it gets one thing off against the team and you're not prepared for it, and it just wins. It just kind of happens, I guess. So I was definitely very terrified going into this week, and I feel like I had reason to be terrified, and I feel like Tone did a good job. It's actually kind of surreal, I guess, to see one of my battles on YouTube, because I guess that's the first time that that's happened, so that's kind of cool. I wish I could have won. I feel like I could have probably team prepped a little bit better. I honestly didn't prep at all for a team without Scolipede, so I feel like I should have done that, just in the off chance that he didn't bring it, what ended up happening. But I was just 100% convinced that Scolipede was coming given the team matchup. So I guess in retrospect, because I kind of like to do this with my post-coms, I'm pretty happy with how I played for most of the week. I feel like not keeping Scizor healthy was a mistake. I feel like I probably should have just kept it physically defensive, because I actually did have it physically defensive at one point and realized it just did a better job at what it was trying to do if it was specially defensive. Keeping it physically defensive would have let me take those close combats a lot better than I did, and would have probably encouraged me to roost stall a little bit more than I ended up doing. I really wish that I could have gotten rocks up, because the extra chip damage just would have been absolutely vital for me to stand a chance this game, but the thing I intended on setting rocks up on didn't come, so that's okay. So, I don't know, good game, Tone. I'm super excited to have played you. I wish it could have been a little bit closer, but I still feel like it was a pretty good battle. This video, again, is coming out way longer than I meant it to, so I'm just going to try to hurry. Coming up next week is, I believe, a brand new team, actually. I was supposed to be playing the Empire State Sceptiles, but they dropped out of the league, I believe. I'm trying to check this live right now, so sorry if anything is popping up that is weird. Actually cut there. Yeah, I'm playing against the Birmingham Rotoms next week, coached by Josh the Div 1. They have a very terrifying team, and I have no idea how they battle, because unless they get a quick battle in this week, I will be their first opponent, which is terrifying, because at least with Tone, I was able to watch his stuff and kind of figure out how he battles a little bit. I wasn't really expecting to have to play against new opponents this far into the season, but that's okay. So thank you guys for watching. Please drop a like, subscribe, recommend any team suggestions you want, and please go check out Tone's content. He uploads the same league that I do. He has a better record than I do, and I like his team a lot, so please show him some support. It would be very much appreciated, and have a good day, guys. See you next time. Bye.